Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Exploring DC, where we take a piece of DC and explore it with you. I am your host, Josh. With me, as always, is Jalen and Jackson. Jalen, how are you?
I'm doing good. Just confused at what our buddy Albert here is doing.
Yeah. Hey, buddy.
Hey guys. So what you just witnessed was me filling up my water bottle. That's an important thing to do if you don't. You have to stay hydrated. It's getting really hot out there with this global warming, so make sure you're drinking lots of water.
Are you spending a lot of time outside, touching grass and
Man.
and stuff?
You know, touching grass, looking at the sky, listening to the birds, touching the trees.
Yeah.
I'm doing all of that on a daily basis.
Are these new experiences, or are these relatively
No,
ones that you've had
you know
before?
what? Contrary to popular belief, I do go outside.
Okay.
I touch grass. I
Well,
smell
I
the
just
flowers.
heard some things, online on the internet. Some
Well,
of the rumor
that
mill.
says more about you than me, doesn't it?
I was just trying to
Spending
get
your
people the
time
benefit of
reading
the doubt.
gossip on the fucking internet. Yeah. Who's not going outside now, you dick?
I mean, they were government documents, but a little gossip.
Fucking prick. Anyways, we're here today to talk about the movie Batman vs. Superman. This movie released in 2016, directed by Zack Snyder, starring Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, and Amy Adams. Michael Shannon is also in this movie for a little bit, playing a corpse.
This is why we don't have you lead, man. Come on, man. Yeah, last week we did Man of Steel.
Jesse Eisenberg is also in the movie.
It is, yes. Last week we did Man of Steel. It was a very interesting episode to start the Zack Snyder trilogy. Now we are in the most controversial Last Jedi-esque sequel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, 2016, like Jackson said. The world's grappling with
right.
Superman's arrival from Man of Steel as Batman comes into conflict with Superman and new threats and new allies emerge. Directed by Zack Snyder. We talked about Snyder a lot. We'll talk about him more. Written here by David S. Goyer and Chris Terrio. Are you guys familiar with Chris Terrio at all?
Writer of The Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah. So this guy does not have a lot of film credits. He writes the winning screenplay for Argo, Ben Affleck's movie. And then he gets hired to do both this movie and Justice League, and then he ends up having a writing credit on the Snyder Cut, which we'll talk about next week. And then, yeah, he moves on, and he does The Rise of Skywalker. And I'm like, I don't think he's really done much since. So that whole experience must have been... But, like, I think it's fascinating that he worked on both the productions of Justice League and Rise of Skywalker in terms of the script, because those are both very movies that went wrong really fast and had a lot of different changes and stuff. I think, though, he has a lot of cool ideas, even in The Rise of Skywalker and some of the early concepts.
I would agree with that.
But definitely a flawed writer. Music here by Hans Zimmer, and then Junkie XL had a more prominent role in this one. He did a little bit of work on Man of Steel. Jackson, are you familiar with this guy?
It's hard not to be.
Hard not to be? Are you not a big
Hard not
fan?
to be.
As opposed
He's
to...
everywhere. Okay, so Hans Zimmer has his own little studio, right?
Yes.
And in that studio are many people, many interns. So when a movie says that it's composed by Hans Zimmer, there's probably like 4 other people who wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you would be shocked at the number of people composing in Hollywood today that came out of that studio. Like John Powell, fucking Steve Jablonsky, Henry Jackman. The list goes on and on. And it's always interesting seeing people come out of Hans Zimmer's little sweatshop and kind of hearing how different they move away from how much they move away from his sound. In Junkie's case, it's not very much, but I think he's a competent composer for sure.
They brought him in to do a lot more of the Batman side of things, because that's what Zimmer... I mean, but Zimmer ended up working on the Batman theme anyways, but the whole
Yeah.
idea was that he was like going to focus more on the Superman side of things because he did that with Man of Steel, and
Yeah.
Junkie was going to work on Batman, but now they just collaborated more. And then Junkie XL did a lot more of the work on the Snyder cut, if I remember right.
He did the whole thing.
Over Hans Zimmer, yeah.
Zimmer
Okay.
was not on the Snyder cut.
Okay, that's what I remember. So yeah, we'll have to talk about that next week and see how that evolves.
It's an interesting trilogy in terms of this music.
But I love a lot of the score in all three of these, and this one has a lot of good moments too.
I own the score on vinyl. It's fucking awesome.
I'm
It's
very jealous of that. That's awesome.
It's so, dude. I should have busted it out. Maybe near the end I'll go get it. It's got like a really cool picture. It's so cool. It's a really sick vinyl setup.
Yeah. And last thing we got here is cast. Like Jackson mentioned, a few people. Ben Affleck is Batman. Henry Cavill Superman. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Your big three in there. A lot of returning people from Man of Steel. Amy Adams, Diane Lane, Lawrence Fishburne. Jesse
Olsen.
Eisenberg is Lex Luthor in this. Jimmy Olsen's in this. Jeremy Irons is Alfred in this. Holly Hunter, Mrs. Incredible herself, is in this as a senator. Scoot McNairy, he might have the coolest name ever. Scoot McNairy.
Scoot McNairy.
He plays Wallace Keefe, the guy that loses his legs.
Oh, okay.
You're not familiar with Scoot McNairy, bro?
Speak no evil. Speak no evil. That guy, right?
Speak no evil.
Okay.
Scoot McNairy's been around, man. He was in one of the True Detective seasons, I think, which is what I remember him from. But yeah. I've always liked him because he has the most ridiculous name ever. I love it. And then a few others, like I talked about, Jimmy Olsen's in this. Lauren Cohen and Jeffrey Dean Morgan play Martha and Thomas Wayne, which is interesting because they're both Walking Dead cast members. And that was the whole conflict, was Negan and Maggie, I believe, were their characters, and they conflicted on that show, and now they have their own show together. But in this one, they're playing, Martha and Thomas together.
Yeah.
KG Beast is in a little bit of this movie. Mercy Graves is in a little bit of this movie. They cast Lana Lang as an adult, which I didn't know. She's in the funeral scene, and she's credited in the cast, and I didn't even realize that, because she doesn't have a line. And then a few... Wunmi Masaku, who was Hunter B-15 in Loki, and then she was recently in Sinners, is only in the Ultimate Edition of this cut. And she plays a really important role. Her character's called Kahina Ziri, and she's from Nairobi, and it's very interesting. But she's a big character. And then Jenna Malone also has like one scene as a Star Labs agent. She was also in Ultimate Edition. And then the last thing I found, which was... I didn't know this, was fascinating. Patrick Wilson is in this movie.
Yes, as the president.
As the voice of... I did not know that at all.
Really?
Which is very cool. So, I mean, maybe Ocean Master took over the White House. Budget here, $250 to $325 million. Box office, $874 million. This movie made bank. Mm-hmm. Especially adjusted for inflation, this would be $1 billion hit nowadays. Very, very cool. Production announced the 2013 San Diego Comic-Con after Man of Steel. There was a film, like a BVS film in the early 2000s. People knew about this because there was an I Am Legend scene where you see like a poster for it, even though the movie never came out. But it started work in 2001. They wanted to go in 2003. Director they had for it was Wolfgang Peterson, who did Amadeus and Das Boot and a lot of those really classic films. Mm-hmm. Batman and Superman here. Josh Hartnett is Superman, which I actually don't hate that.
That's kind of tough.
But early 2000s, Johnny Depp is Batman, which I am
not
not.
tough. That's not tough. That's not tough.
Yes, obviously modern day Johnny Depp could not do Batman ever in his life, but early 2000s Johnny Depp would be so. That's like Pirates of the Caribbean era. A little before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
That's not tough.
Yeah. But anyway, Wolfgang Peterson kind of shut down the project because he went to go work on Troy, and then it just all fell apart from there. And then also Superman Returns didn't work out, so they were going to maybe tie things into that. So Man of Steel comes out, they announce a sequel, and Snyder's like, Superman fights Zod, who should he fight next? Naturally, Batman. And obviously Snyder's big on Batman, so he brings Batman in. This was potentially going to tie into Dark Knight stuff. We talked about that last time, how they were going to set Man of Steel in, and they've been playing around with it a while. Apparently the reason they didn't for this one is because at the end of Dark Knight Rises, as you guys remember, Batman, the mantle gets passed over to Joseph Gordon-Levitt as, what's his name?
Robin.
Robin Blake or
Robin Blake.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, apparently he was supposed to be Batman going forward. So if they did BVS, it wouldn't make sense. People would want to see Bruce Wayne fight Superman, Christian Bale, not Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So like tying this in as a BVS thing would have undone the events of that movie. And I guess they didn't want to do that. So they skipped over. Ben Affleck was their first choice for Batman, so they kind of got that big. And then they went from there. They brought Chris Terrio in because Goyer was super busy doing a lot of stuff. And then the last thing I thought that was interesting is that BVS was a complete studio exec name decision. One thing Snyder said is that he wanted it to be called Batman v Superman, not Batman vs Superman, to like make sure that it wasn't strictly a beat 'em up like versus movie, and that there's a little bit of nuance to it. And some other titles that they were working on when they were writing the script were Justice League Foundations, Justice League Rising, and then this one I remember from way back when. It's called Son of Sun and Night of Night. So like Son of Sun, the Sun, and then Night, like the Dark Knight of Night. I think that would have been way too confusing, that last one.
Yeah.
It would have been.
Like, I see the vision, but that wouldn't have worked.
I also don't like calling this Justice League. I feel like that would be disingenuous. Because it's not.
I agree.
I actually would argue that Dawn of Justice, if they dropped that, this movie would have a much better title. I don't even like that part of the title. It
You
should
don't
just
like
be
the
called
Dawn
Batman.
of Justice part?
No, I just like it.
Yeah,
It should just be
okay.
called Batman v Superman. Dawn of Justice makes it feel a little tackier, in my opinion.
I actually kind of like the Dawn of Justice subtitle.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, just because of they do so much Justice League setup with this film, especially like the clip show, and then obviously having Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman in this one, and a pretty big part of it too, and you do have a lot of that Justice League setup. So calling it Dawn of Justice. Like especially because like that, like the setup portion, in my opinion, is a little bit bigger than the actual Batman versus Superman portion.
Let me hit you with this. Iron Man 1 comes out. Mm-hmm. Iron Man 2 comes out, and Iron Man 2 has a bunch of Avengers set up with Nick Fury and Black Widow, and it's all about, there's like a whole subplot in that movie that people have mixed feelings of, that they're like clearly setting up Avengers stuff, right? Imagine that movie's called Iron Man, like the Avengers are near, or some shit.
Like,
I don't know,
like Captain America, the first Avenger?
Yeah, like that. I think it's... I don't like that.
It's like calling the first Captain America movie the first Avenger.
Yeah, I don't like that either. That's the thing. I don't like that title.
Really?
Hmm.
Okay.
I think it's just tacky, man. I don't know. Like, it's just like, hey, we're marketing a future movie.
Me personally, I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna lie.
No, bro.
We're a bunch of fucking 22-year-old dudes with a fucking podcast sitting here spending 5 minutes arguing about a title of a movie that came out 10 years ago.
And I intend to win that fucking argument because it's a long ass title, especially when you factor in the Ultimate Edition. Now it's called Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition, when it could just be
but
called
nobody calls it
BVS.
that.
This Blu-ray does, bro. This Blu-ray does. And it's long as fuck. Anyway, Jalen, prior history at this one. Where are you at? 2016.
So
How much have you seen it?
Ironically enough, I saw this one after watching Justice League.
Okay.
So
now
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was the weirdest. It was the
Fucking
weirdest
freak.
experience. The weirdest viewing experience that I've had. But when it comes to this one, I remember watching it, and I actually saw the Ultimate Edition first, and I was like, okay, this is like, I remember liking it, and then I think the more times that I've watched it, because obviously I've seen it, God knows how many times. I watch it more and I watch it more and I watch it more, and I find myself not really liking it as much, just for certain reasons which we will get into in this episode. But I do remember that first viewing experience, seeing Ben Affleck's Batman, that warehouse fight scene, which we will get into, I'm sure, and being like, man, this is maybe the best Batman fight scene that I think I've seen. At that time, it was the best, and just being so like enamored with like this world, and obviously thinking that it was so much better than Justice League, and then
Right.
I keep watching it and I'm like, okay, I keep picking out these little points where it's like, all right, I think I like this a little bit less. I think I like this a little bit less. And that has led me to kind of being a little bit sour on the entire movie just because of the characterizations. But, yeah.
That's fair. Jackson, how about you? Where were you?
Saw
at?
it day one in theaters.
Really? Okay.
I vividly remember that day.
Yeah.
And I vividly
then-
remember going to the YMCA. So I did like, we had this weird thing at where I live where you have like, you can do year-round school, which is, it's public school, but it's like, you're basically 9 weeks in, 3 weeks off. And so you don't have a big summer break. It's just like 9 weeks on, 3 weeks off the whole year. And you'll get like 4 for summer and 4 for Christmas.
Like you could have done this?
No, I did do this for middle school and
Really?
elementary school. Yeah.
I kind of like that.
It's sick. It's really nice. But also at the same time, it's like having a long summer break is cool. But I'm side tangenting here. I was on what we call track out, which is your 3 weeks off. And so during those 3 weeks off, I went to the YMCA for camp.
Okay.
And I vividly remember going in that following Monday, and one of the counselors had like a box of like toys. And he addressed the entire there were probably 200 of us. He addressed everybody and was like, I will give if you can raise your hand and give me a reason why Batman vs. Superman sucks, I will give you a prize. And so we sat there for 5 minutes, and he gave out prizes to everybody who saw the movie and could give them a reason why it was terrible. That's a core memory for me. I just think
Did
that's
you
really
give him a
funny.
reason?
I absolutely did. I wanted a prize.
What was your reason? Do you remember?
The Martha scene, of course.
My classic, man. I
No,
don't
of
blame
course.
you.
I was I was in middle school. I didn't have critical thinking.
Yeah, and then you've told me over the years that you've come to appreciate this one a lot more,
This
right?
movie, I fucking really like this movie.
All right.
I really
It's
like
good.
this movie.
I'm getting a good gauge of where everyone's at here. Yeah, I did not see this one in the theater. I was middle school era, and I remember Captain America: Civil War came out a couple months later. So like the marketing was going on for both movies around
Yeah.
the same time, and they have to middle school me the same premise of like,
Yes.
oh, the two superheroes are fighting. One is like the grim dark version, and then one is like MCU
The
at its
fun
peak.
version, yeah.
So I'm like, obviously I'm gonna go see the MCU at its peak. So I went to go see Captain America: Civil War, like way back when.
Yeah.
And then I waited for months. I remember on my birthday, I was so excited because I got that Ultimate Edition, and I knew that it was rated R and had 30 more minutes, and I was like, this is like gonna be so sick. And I did not like it at all at first. And over the years, I've like gone through a whole thing, just like Man of Steel, this one, and like gone over and over and over. The other thing I have for show and tell, I had all my Man of Steel sets. I have like no BVS sets anymore, if
Yeah.
I had any, but I do have Ben Affleck Batman from
Oh,
way
cool.
back when. That's my only thing I have left. But anyway, where do we start here? I think the most interesting thing here to start is Man of Steel. We talked about it. We have mixed feelings on that one. How do we feel? Jackson, I guess I'll start with you. Does this follow up a lot of the thematic elements and story elements of Man of Steel? Like, how do you feel the evolution happened here?
Yeah,
You like it?
I think that it hones in on the characters a lot more in this one.
Okay.
Weirdly, I really think it does. I think it hones in on the most interesting parts of Man of Steel to me.
Like,
I think just the way that the world perceives Superman was one of the more intriguing parts because it really tried to portray that in a realistic way, and I think that BVS tackles that subject matter, especially through Lex, in just a way that's really cool.
I actually would agree with you. I think Man of Steel is more competent because BVS goes all over the place. But BVS, like, the ideas that it follows up on a Man of Steel with
BVS
like,
is just
how,
a cooler movie.
BVS with how it like evolves those themes of like, yeah, Superman, how would people react to him? It's so realistic and it's so like we're ingrained in everything, and that's what I really love about it.
Yeah,
It's because it's very political in a way that's interesting
it is.
to me.
So actually, I want to bring up something. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my buddy Seth. Maybe we can link this in the bio. I don't know, Josh. Can we link something in the bio?
Perhaps. What do we?
My
What do we
buddy, my
talk
buddy
about?
Seth has a really, 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 really good write up on this movie about how it ties into themes of like post 9/11 Islamophobia and stuff like that. It's a really that might sound like it's a reach, but it's a really, really, really good read, and I think it'll really give you kind of a newfound appreciation if you give his little essay on
Okay.
Letterboxd a read. So I'll make sure Josh links it in the bio for all of our YouTube
Yeah.
listeners and watchers. It's a
It's
really good read, and it's because I think it is a much more politically fueled movie than Man of Steel is, and that's something I do find really interesting. I mean, both overtly and in terms of its like subtext. I think it is a movie packed with much more thematic content than Man of Steel is.
right, and I think it's just a natural evolution for where
Yeah.
Goyer went with the script, and there's a lot of cool building of that final battle of Man of Steel, which I'm not a huge fan of.
No,
But
I'm
I
not.
think
We talked about this.
the ways they work from that and like
It's really cool.
and make that the central like starting point of this whole story is very very cool.
I mean,
Jalen
because in
hit-
a lot of ways, that is the inciting incident, right?
it is absolutely.
And I think
well, I
that's
mean,
really
then there's
neat.
the stuff in Africa as well that like
Yeah,
further compounds.
Of course.
But Jalen hit you with this opening. We watched the Ultimate Edition, right? All of us,
Yeah.
maybe.
No,
Yeah, I did.
I've
watched the
seen it,
theatrical one
but
last time?
I didn't. I did watch the. Let me ask you guys: did you guys watch it on Max?
No, I have my Blu-ray.
I also have my
Jalen,
Blu-ray.
did. Okay, I don't remember if the. Okay, so
Max has the Ultimate Edition though.
yes, but for our listeners at home, if you watch at least the theatrical cut on Max, it shifts to IMAX ratio.
Oh, that's very
Oh,
cool.
And
does
it's-
it? Oh, that's sick.
Not only does it, and I think they released a special Blu-ray with this too, with the Ultimate Edition. I don't know if the Ultimate Edition on Max does this. I'll have to check. But not only is it IMAX, but it's the entire 4:3 IMAX. So
That's very
it won't
cool.
fill your screen. It's like Justice League. It will. It's the full 4:3 expanded IMAX ratio. And I don't know of many other movies that have home video releases in full IMAX 4:3. I'm going to get a little nerdy here, but this is, I think, the only comic book film outside of the Nolan trilogy to shoot with IMAX film cameras too. So it's really cool if you go and watch it on Max. They released this around the same time as Justice League, with the full expanded 4:3 aspect ratio. It looks gorgeous. I mean, this is just one of the most stunning looking comic book films of all time, and just one of the better looking blockbusters from the 2010s period. I love the way this thing is shot.
I'm kind of jealous of that because I would have loved to watch the IMAX. I wish
Same
more
here,
physical.
man. That sounds.
Okay, so go back and watch the first time when Superman and the big scene where they throw hands, they walk up, they get close to each other. You know the one.
just go
that-
just go find the clip on Max. Yeah.
Yeah. Could just go watch that scene because the shot, it's so fucking. Watch it on the biggest screen you can. It looks gorgeous, like just drop dead gorgeous.
No, but I wish more Blu-rays and physical releases had the expanded IMAX stuff because I feel like that's always lacking.
And again, it's not just the expanded ratio; it's the
4 by
full
3.
thing. Yeah, which
is
you don't even get in
awesome.
most like IMAX theaters. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so you watched it on Max though, and then we watched it. Okay,
I watched it on Max.
gotcha. I forgot what my point was in both editions. I think the inciting incident, Jalen, with Man of Steel, and the ending of that is the big motivating factor of how Batman factors in, and Bruce's like boots to the ground in that
Yeah.
conflict. I'm curious what you think of that because I think that's such an interesting way to pull him in rather than just him like seeing footage on the news or something like that. It's like
Yeah.
him being involved retroactively with the ending of that movie.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting, and I think kind of to point out to so I'm trying to figure out how to really word this. In the animated series, there are moments where you see that compassion behind Bruce Wayne, and you can truly tell the duality of Bruce Wayne and Batman, like that duality between Clark Kent and Superman, right? And there are multiple moments in this opening scene where he's like running into the conflict, which is, like Jackson said, very 9/11, it does definitely take some from that, but there's moments even like where he's like trying to protect the little girl, telling everyone to just help who you can, you know what I mean? And it's like there are those moments where it's like the compassion of Bruce Wayne, and even like later on, you know, when Scoot, the guy from Speak No
Scoot
Evil,
McNairy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Scoot McNairy, when he I guess makes a big gesture or something. I forget if it's the court scene or if it's the scene where he's like failing the statue, the Superman statue, but where
Hmm.
Bruce is watching it on TV and he's like, "Has he not been getting our checks? Like, what's going on? Get on this, you know what I mean? Like, help this guy as much as you possibly can, you know what I mean?" And like, there are moments in the characterizations of Bruce that I'm like, man, this is like, I would have loved to have actually seen him cook with like how we keep going to better writing. You know what I mean? Like I think there's definitely potential in Henry Cavill's Superman. I think there's potential in this Bruce Wayne for sure, man. Before Pattinson came along, he was my favorite. You know, because I felt like
Yeah.
they finally got some aspects
Yeah.
of him right. You know, and they got some of the bigger aspects of him right. And I actually think this opening really plays on that fact of like how the world looks at Superman in a sense where there is that fear. You know, there is that uncertainty. How Lex even possibly looks at Superman is kind of how Superman looks at Batman. And like
Right.
there's an interesting argument to be made because I'm gonna be honest, I think I really enjoy this movie. I of course have my issues, but I enjoy this movie enough. I have fun with this movie enough when that build up is happening. Like the first half, the first like hour 30 in the Ultimate Edition, hour 45, whenever before they first like officially meet and have their confrontation for the first time. You know, seeing that build up of like Clark hearing these stories on the ground in the Gotham apartments about how scary the bat is. You know, like you feel that. Like as an audience member, you feel this presence of the Batman, and obviously since apparently this Gotham has really, you know, gone insane, you know, you definitely feel the state that this current Gotham is in, but at the same time, you also understand Bruce's viewpoint on Superman. You understand, like, man, can you imagine if, you know, we would have seen, you know, two aliens in the sky crashing
Yeah.
into buildings, killing upwards of 5,000 to 50,000 people, you know what I mean? Thousands of people losing their lives over a battle, and it's like, no, you know, where it's like all you wish that is that you could have stopped it. You know what I mean? I
Right.
fully understand that. You know, and I think that is something that this movie does well. I do think that it does fall short in some areas, which
Right.
I'm
Right.
sure we'll get into later on.
No, that's a really good breakdown of it. I think I agree. It's a really awesome example of you see a lot of superhero movies from the macro, like the big scale. You're seeing the wide views of them destroying whatever environment they're in.
Yeah.
And they've touched on this in like Civil War and other movies like this of like the effects it's had on civilians, but this one does a great job of being like
You see it.
the world has effects and they can't just punch and explode stuff and throw things around without consequences. And even on the level of like Batman branding people and doing everything he does, because this movie is full on and a commentary with the Dark Knight Returns version of Batman. We can get into that in a second, but it's good to show like a superhero movie that has repercussions for characters and what they do, more so than just like, oh, we're gonna have our big CGI third battle here, and by the next movie we'll just move on and do the next thing. I think this movie does a great job with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
Jackson, I'll talk to you about Batman too, because it is an adaptation very heavily of Frank Miller's version of the character, and I
Yeah.
think it's faithful enough to the ideals and themes of what that is, but it's very interesting to put that in a cinematic universe not only, but also like not in the traditional story that Batman is placed in with like a more apocalyptic Gotham and futurism and all that stuff. How do you feel
Yes.
about like his placement here with everything?
It's interesting talking about it in the context of the cinematic universe because we touched on this a little bit last year, but I kind of view. I still don't totally feel like Snyder ever. Maybe I'm grasping here. I don't know. But it felt like all of these spin-offs was a Warner Bros. Thing and not a Snyder thing. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. That's what I felt like
And
with.
because it feels like Snyder just kind of wanted to do his 5 little Elseworld movies and then pass on the torch and move on, right? So that's kind of why I feel like I don't totally judge this version of Batman on the same basis that I would another adaptation, if that makes sense. Because you're right, it is pulling from like The Dark Knight Returns, which is an Elseworld story, right? That's its number one source of inspiration. It's not exactly hiding that.
Right.
And I think it's clear that Snyder understands the characters, to me. That's what makes it fascinating. To
an
me,
extent.
I don't know. What do you mean?
See,
with Batman.
yeah, even like there's this thing like, and part of it makes sense, but part of it which I can even like attest with you or kind of go with you there, where it's like it doesn't, at times it doesn't feel like he was trying to make a whole cinematic universe, just this 5 movie deal where it's like, you know, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and then it's Justice League trilogy, and then done. Step out, someone else take the reins, tell your ultra DC stories, right? Whatever. When he revealed that the dead Robin was Dick Grayson, and that is why this Bruce is so hardened, because he views Dick Grayson as his greatest success, you know, and for his greatest success to ultimately die on probably his watch, you know, that's you know, for me, I can understand that to a point, but I still think there are, it's a slippery slope, because on one hand, looking at it as a true Elseworld story, sure, like this turn for why he's so dark, for why he is so willing to be as brutal as possible, and more than likely have killed some people. He definitely killed some people in this movie.
He definitely
you know what I mean?
did.
He shot people with a machine gun, Jalen.
Yeah, he definitely
blew people up.
He definitely killed some people.
I feel like
he definitely.
I would go so far
I
as
think
he kills
he's the
people when he
first
doesn't even
person-
need to. Like he just
Yeah,
No,
murders
I
people.
think
Like,
he's
he just
the
straight up
Punisher
murders
in this
people.
movie, bro. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
but like that's the thing is that like looking at it as an Elseworld story, you can be like, okay, this is kind of cool, you know what I mean? But then also like
Right.
it's when you throw in this whole universe side of things, and then you throw in, you know, his Suicide Squad appearance, and then his Justice League appearance, and then it's like, you
But
know,
do we really
his
need to
other
talk
stuff.
about Suicide Squad?
We
do we
don't.
really
I mean,
need to
for
bring
the
that up?
greater-
Yeah, but
for the brand,
you know,
broader context.
yeah, for the broader context, and you know,
Yeah,
what I
but
mean?
it's like, do we really need to bring that movie into our lives?
you know,
No.
and then I also
No, I hear what
don't-
you're saying, though.
Yeah, like I also truly don't believe that this Batman would willingly let that version of Joker and that version of Harley Quinn be walking around, especially at the state that he's in this type
I
of
agree.
movie.
But also,
know.
I hear you, but I also think that's a Suicide Squad problem and not a Batman versus
Yeah,
Superman problem.
that's fair. That's fair.
You know,
that's totally fair.
and
yeah.
honestly, I think if we, you know, if we're bringing up the shortcomings this version of Batman has in terms of functioning within a wider DC universe, that's maybe the best example you could bring up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Snyder ever, when he made, because again, I think like, I think it confuses people a little bit because there is so much world building and setting up in this movie, but it's only setting up the other 3 projects Snyder wanted to make.
Yeah.
He wasn't setting up a ton of spin-offs. Like,
yeah.
there's that one Wonder Woman picture, and that's like it.
Mhm.
And even that, I think, was something different when Snyder shot it. So I don't believe that Snyder really spent that much time thinking about, oh, hey, they're gonna make a Shazam movie.
I think it's just interesting with Ben Affleck in the whole Dark Knight aspect of it is interesting in the sense that like you're bringing in that and contrasting it with a year 1-ish Superman.
Yeah.
Which is not normally how the story is, and not normally how, and then also that Batman is from the future of Gotham, where like Carrie Kelly is Robin, and things have gone really far downhill. Where in this one, it's like everything is just kind of the normal, except for Ben Affleck, who is grizzled Frank Miller Batman, and is literally like driving his Batmobile through like warehouse goons and shit. So I think it's one that I enjoy. Ben Affleck is
He's
so
so
cool
good.
in this movie.
He's
Like,
You
so
know, he's
good.
so good. He's so good. Like bro,
That's what I'm
that
saying.
warehouse
I
fight- Come on.
All
man.
respect to Cavill, but Affleck is so much better than him, and I think that's part of the big reason why I like this movie more than Man of Steel.
Dog,
Yeah.
and like even like at points you could see where I don't know if you guys have read up on his canceled Batman story that Ben Affleck was gonna write, but it's like it feels like at points Ben Affleck too went in the collaborated with Zack and collaborated with Chris Terrio and was like, okay, this is kind of where I want to take my Batman in this direction, so then we can flow into my Batman movie a little bit more, because his Batman movie was just as dark and his Batman movie fit way more in line with what this Batman v Superman Batman was going through and what he was feeling, especially, when you hear about in his Batman movie plans, he was planning to kill Alfred and planning to kill Gordon and some other people that were really close to Batman, like taking him truly down, down in the dumps. It almost felt like which I know the movie never got made, never came out, whatever, but it almost felt like that Batman that he was planning on setting up was like an in between of Batman, Batman v Superman and Justice League, because he was going even deeper in that darkness, and then Justice League seems like a place where it was trying to bring him out of it. But Ben Affleck's Batman is so good. It's so good. Even like rewatching this, I was like, bro, if they would have just used him right, bro. If they would
good as a fucking Flash movie, bro.
That monologue that he gives Barry is honestly my favorite part of the Flash, because it's so simple, but it's so Bruce, and it's like you could.
He's in the movie for two. He literally has one scene where he's like actually acting, and he's so good. It's ridiculous how good Affleck is in this role.
Yeah,
Batman.
And it's like if they only used him right. If they only used him right, man.
I will say the one thing. Like, looking at it now at the dawn of the DCU, which is about a week away, I love this version of everything, and there's so much to, like, mine from and appreciate. I've been watching for this movie so far. I'm so glad this is not, like, our main continuity anymore, because it's so much more fun as a little, like, experimental side tangent thing than as, like...
And you know what? I will say.
The representation of Batman to the general public, you know what I mean?
I agree with you. And I would almost go off to piggyback off that and say that it went on way too long.
I agree. That was
like if you really look at the good movies in this franchise, like the ones that are really worth a damn, they're almost all made by Snyder. Like I hate to be that guy, but it's like you look at all the non-Snyder movies, there are maybe like two that are really worth anything.
I would say Shazam and Aquaman, and that's it. Pretty much.
And Suicide Squad, but that's
yeah, that too.
So I don't really count that because it's going to be in the new, the new DCU. There are so many elements from that carrying over, so I kind of can't count that even. But yeah, I mean Shazam, sure. Aquaman, I guess. I don't really give a shit about that movie. Wonder Woman, I don't fucking know. It's like I really. It really is incredible just how much most of these movies fell on their face.
Right. But before we side tangent, because, bro, the DCU will be covered in due time.
Yes.
No worries. I don't want to get too far off the Snyder stuff. Let's flip it. Equally as important in this movie is Superman, Clark Kent. We had a whole debate last week about how Henry Cavill is not that good, and I argued for his sake. Now Jackson gets to argue why Henry Cavill is much better in this one over Man of Steel.
Because he has Ben Affleck to bounce off. Like, I think it's just...
Is it the entirety? It's just Ben Affleck? That makes
sense. I
that
think that... I really do think like his dynamic with both Jesse Eisenberg and Ben Affleck are both really strong. Because he didn't really have anybody super... expressive to bounce off of in Man of Steel, and I think having, making Lex Luthor hopped up on Adderall, it provided a nice contrast to how stoic Cavill is in the role.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that, but I think also Michael Shannon Zod gives him an equal amount of energy.
Really good, but I think it's just specifically double dose of Adderall energy that
right.
Jesse Eisenberg brings that just really works for me.
it definitely, like, he carries on. I loved what he did in Man of Steel, but I also love what he does here, and it's like he really goes through it in this movie and
Yeah.
goes through the shit, and it's nice to see Cavill like fully take on that burden and really, especially with like the Senate scene always plays
So
to me,
good.
and I'm like, oh my gosh, man. We brought up last week how he had no lines of dialogue pretty much in Man of Steel. He has 42 lines in this movie.
It's crazy.
And I mean, it's just,
He makes
especially
them
when
count.
he's Clark Kent too. He's very charming. Like I really like his Clark Kent as well. It's very, you don't see it a lot, but when you do, it's nice, and
No.
it's a good job. Jalen, how do we feel about some other things in here? Maybe with the Superman cast being brought back. We have Lois again. Yeah, Perry again.
No, ironically enough, I actually feel like kind of to go a little bit off of what you guys said. I feel like I only liked Cavill in this one when he was bouncing off of Jesse Eisenberg or Ben Affleck.
Okay.
I
He doesn't do like anything of Amy Adams in this movie anymore.
yeah. There was like maybe one scene where I saw the charmingness, which was the scene in the bathtub with Lois. That was really it for me. That was really the only moment. But I feel like with this type of story, and I get offering that different perspective of looking at it as an Elseworld story and looking at it as this is not main timeline Superman. This is not the big big boy in blue, big boy Scott in blue, whatever. Right, but I do feel like his character could have been a little bit more interesting to me. I would have liked to see a little bit more hope displayed. Because I'm gonna be honest, man, this movie is bleak. This movie is very bleak from beginning to
100%.
end. All 3 hours for us, 2 hours in 2015 in the regular edition theatrical cut, somewhere
No,
around
it's
there.
more than that. But yeah.
It's more than that. Yeah. So it's like this movie is a very bleak movie, and I feel like his Superman gets lost, or he gets written even deeper into that bleak view of society in a way where it's like. Go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead. Because
I disagree that this movie is bleak from beginning to end. I actually think it ends on a very hopeful note. I think maybe the most hopeful note in the movie is its last 10 minutes, maybe.
His last 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I think, hearing that conversation between Bruce and Wonder Woman where Bruce, says that iconic line, men are still good. Mm-hmm. And then, you see the dirt rise up from Superman's grave as it cuts to black. I think that is the most hopeful little stretch of stuff in the entire film.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, I do agree with that. I just feel like earlier on in the film, there could have been more glimmers, you know what I mean? There could have been, maybe, like, not even, because, like, I get the stories to really show how scary the concept of an alien is to a certain type of American. There are definitely a lot of political statements to be said there, right? But when it comes to certain moments, I would have loved a scene or a moment where you truly get to show the bright personality and why some people love this version of Superman. It kind of like humanize him a little bit, because I think they go too far into that God metaphor. You know what I mean? I think they go way too far into that religious Christian style, like, comparing him to God in a way. Like I that aspect just didn't work for me, and I would have loved to have just seen
I can agree with that.
down a level. You know what I mean? But I do agree with Jackson that final scene is definitely one of the better scenes in the movie, and it does leave you excited for where Zack was gonna take Justice League in that trilogy. It's just I would have loved to have seen a little bit more hope in this one from him.
I get you, and that's a lot of people's complaints about Man of Steel too, is that it's like not as optimistic and hopeful as, or at least with the vibe of it that people want, and that's why people are excited for the new one. I will say one final thing on the Superman returning cast. I think Lois here is a lot better. Not great, but she's a lot better here than Man of Steel, because she actually gets investigative journalism to do. And in the Ultimate Edition especially, it's actually like way more fleshed out and relevant to how Lex's scheme is all going down. And it makes like it really is the backbone of a lot of Lex's scheme making sense, where in the theatrical cut Lex's scheme doesn't really like fully come together. And that's because they cut out that Wunmi Masaku character, and they cut out a lot of the beginning part in Africa, and I think the Ultimate Edition really fleshes out Lois. So she's good on her own. She's just not good with Cavill ever.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
No, she's not.
But I've been dodging it. Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor is our main villain.
Let's fucking go. The people's champ, baby.
Champ.
The people's champ.
I don't even know how to describe this version of Lex.
Adderall. It's one word.
It's like...
Oh my goodness, bro.
It's like Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor if he was neurotic.
Yes. It's like Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor if he had extreme ADHD.
And you're a big fan, Jackson.
I love it. I love his Lex Luthor so fucking much. I got excited in the Snyder Cut when I saw him in the opening. Like, I love this version of Lex Luthor. Maybe an unhealthy amount. It's just so insane. It's maybe one of the most insane comic book adaptations like ever. Especially for a major character. I love it.
It's honestly... I would struggle to feel like it's a proper adaptation. It's just such a departure from everything.
But I think the writing is really good.
Yeah, that even goes into this whole Elseworlds thing. You know what I mean? Every character is not who they normally would be. You know, and I think that Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor very much plays into that. You know what I mean?
Granny's peach tea.
Granny's peach tea. But it has the core aspect that you always need from Lex, is that he's
a hater.
He's just a hater. He has hater energy for Superman.
I know, and that I think that comes across better in this than the other one, than Gene Hackman did, or Kevin Spacey.
Wow.
I think that Lex comes off much more as a fucking petty piece of shit in this than any of the other Superman movies, and I will die on that hill.
And Hackman is obviously one of our greats, but like, this Lex is way more interesting on a fundamental level.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would actually go as far as to say I think he's kind of the best character in this movie.
He's giving it the most energy in life, because
I
otherwise
know,
it'd be
so good.
It'd be kind of a dry movie. Not in a bad way, but
like Man of Steel.
Hey, let's not be rash. But anyway, it would be a very dry movie, right? But yeah, he's like
Man of Steel. Yes.
It's like everything.
I think I even said last week that this movie's better because it has him. Like,
everything is super like serious, and then there's just Jolly Rancher Lex just
so good
fucking around. Jalen, are you a fan?
It's so good.
I'm mixed, bro. It's so
okay.
different.
A lot of people hate him. It's fine.
No, like that's the thing. I don't even hate him. Like, he's so entertaining. Like, you have so much fun when you're watching him on screen. He provides so much life to this movie. But I just don't know how to feel, man. It's like the ending to 28 years later, man, which we were just talking about for the viewers out there before the pod even started. You know,
which is also awesome.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it for the viewers, but there are some moments in that where I just don't know how to feel, you know. But even like with this with this Lex Luthor, man, when that Granny Peach Tea scene is so petty, it's so like, but it's also like it does give a lot of hater energy. You know what I mean? And then it's also like the scene where he just sticks the Jolly Rancher in the senator's mouth, and I'm like, okay, this is weird, you know? But even like there was one line that bro had, I'm forgetting it. I'm just remembering the ending of the line where he's like something.
Do you think this Lex fucks?
That's like the whole thesis that he doesn't.
Exactly. But like, no, but I feel like low key he does though, you know?
This is honestly one of my favorite Jesse Eisenberg performances. I think he's so electric.
He's so good.
And honestly, like, yes, there's goofy shit, but also there's moments that really work for me. Like, there's the part where he's with Holly Hunter in his dad's
so good.
room, and he's talking about, like, oh, I should have the painting flipped because We now know that the gods, they don't are the fucking demons. They don't come from below. They come.
That's
from
what
above.
I'm saying. The writing is very Lex Luthor. I think, like,
It is.
genuinely, his motivation, the actual writing, and I will go every
It's just
time
coded
to the scene.
in a Joker
Yes.
like Riddler.
I would go
paint.
to the scene where, oh god, it's on top of it's on the helicopter pad. You know the one.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's classic Lex Luthor.
That's the scene that I
Where
was
he's
talking
like,
about. Where he,
I need.
the,
I
then the
need the head
devil
of the
will do
bat.
it or something like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yes, that line.
Hard as fuck.
That moment is really good. I just don't know how to feel, man. You know about his Lex Luthor.
Honestly,
I do. It's awesome.
Does the third act, we would all agree, is probably the weakest part, right? The Doomsday
Yes.
fight.
Yes.
Is the third act the weakest part because Lex Luthor isn't
Yes.
in it, like
Yes.
at all?
Yes.
And also
They're just
Doomsday.
fighting a faceless monster.
And also Doomsday. I have a thing about I love the concept of Doomsday being Zod and like being an experiment. They did that in Superman and Lois too, but they did it with Bizarro instead of Zod. But I love the idea of like a Kryptonian just becoming Doomsday by experimentation. The Doomsday design in this movie
So bad.
is the turdiest of turds.
It's really bad.
Atrocious.
What?
It is atrocious.
It's so bad. It makes me just not like the if it just looked like Doomsday, I would be fine with this whole inclusion. But it's so ugly. That
It's terrible.
I hate it, man. It makes me so upset.
And that fight it does lose this. It gets lost in the sauce there in the last that final battle. There's like a 20-minute stretch that I just don't really fuck with, and that's kind of that Doomsday fight is honestly what holds this movie back from being like.
Well, let's
one of the greats.
talk about it because the second movie in this universe, or second movie even in the Snyder little pocket, and he already introduces elements of Death of Superman and kills off Superman. Jackson, how do you feel like about that choice?
I don't
that is
mind
a
that.
bold choice.
I didn't mind it. I like how it comes back in Justice League. I think it works. Again, Justice League was going to be the last good movie he would have made in this universe. We'll talk about that next week, I'm sure. Because, my God, do the plans for the last two movies sound horrible. But I don't mind killing... Like, for a very finite story like that, I didn't mind it.
How about you, Jalen?
For a singular story, I bounce between liking it or not even liking it, don't like not minding it and hating it. The only I guess reason why I feel like I hate it is just that it feels like it was done so early, even like on a year, you know, like even if Justice League and Justice League Part 1 and Justice League Part 2 was going to be the next step for these characters. This Superman is only in year 1.5 and he's already killed,
right.
revived, and then whatever, which I think his resurrection scene is one of my biggest problems with Justice League, but we'll talk about that next week.
Really?
Yeah. Like I think that scene is my least favorite in the Zack. Like I love I love Zack Snyder's Justice League. I hate that scene specifically.
But yeah, it's too soon.
Yeah, it's entirely too soon. But I do think that it does play into that whole thing of like the world, like all hope is truly dead, and then it's revived. The only thing is, I don't feel like the Superman is truly the embodiment of hope, which is another reason why I feel like I hate it. You know,
That's
or
valid.
don't like it.
I think
you know,
in the context of what this story is going for, it can fit. It's just like it would work a lot better if there was a Man of Steel 2 in between this movie and the first Man of Steel, where we actually really got to explore Superman. I think honestly, if there's a Man of Steel in between these movies that has like a more optimistic Superman, you get to see why people grow attached to him. It makes this movie like
I
work
can
a lot
see your
better.
point there. Because I think, again, I said this in Man of Steel, I do think the character of Clark and Kal-El is a bit undercooked. And that doesn't really change here. Yeah.
it's
And again,
it-
because I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No.
there's a reason why I keep talking about Ben Affleck and Jesse Eisenberg. I think they're the far more interesting characters to chew on.
Yeah, the problem with Superman is that it's more about the ideas and concepts of
Yeah.
Superman in this world than it is about the character himself.
For sure.
Last thing I wanted to touch on, unless you guys have anything else, is I wanted to touch about the Dawn of Justice, Wonder Woman, the League, all that setup. I am not a huge fan of it. I kind of like the Wonder Woman stuff, but it's also just setting up a third act final fight and to throw her in the
Yeah.
marketing.
The Wonder Woman stuff this time around, watching it, felt a lot more hand-fisted in.
My two things, I just feel like it's just set up. It's Iron Man 2 again for me personally. And I also hate the like fucking scene where she just clicks on all the files and then it's
So funny.
like different league
With the
it's
Wonder
like-
Woman theme
it's
blasting
like,
over
oh,
it.
how convenient all the league members that they're gonna track down are all like have little video files that show off their powers. Like, come on,
Yeah.
man. I will say Gal Gadot is not bad in this though.
That's because
I
she's
think-
not given anything to do.
I think in the Snyder stuff and even Wonder Woman, she's like passable.
fine.
It's
She's
when you
fine.
get to the after the Justice League movies where things.
Really go downhill, yeah.
But
I would
I mean,
even say
she's
the Justice
intriguing
League
here.
movie, to be honest. I would say she's really only good or serviceable.
Yeah, she's
in
not
this
that good in
movie
Justice. That's
and
right.
Wonder-
She's
and
good in
Wonder
this
Woman.
one and Wonder Woman. Yeah, you know what, Jalen?
Yeah.
I agree. You're right. But this one, I think she's like intriguing in this, but that's because she doesn't really have much to do.
She also does not say much.
Yeah, but that's why it's intriguing
That's why
Yeah.
it works.
because
It
Gal
was-
Gadot's.
It was interesting setup for the Wonder Woman movie specifically, and I am a huge Wonder Bat fan, you know, from the DCAU, and it was cool seeing like little hints of that in this and in
Yeah.
Justice League. But it does feel at times like this was one of those like classic studio mandated, like, okay, we're doing this universe, we're trying to make as much money as possible, Marvel's doing it, you know what I mean? Just put her in, set some stuff up, and keep going. You know what I mean? Set her movie up, and yeah. But I do think that she was pretty serviceable in this movie, and she definitely does have some cool moments where I'm like, oof, that was pretty hard, but
Like, I think it'd be cooler. I don't know. You'd have to rework a lot of stuff, but do not market this as Dawn of Justice. Do not market Wonder Woman at all. Still have her, like, essentially play the same role, just a little less, and have Bruce interact with her and start to figure out, like, who are you? And then at the end of this movie, when what happens with Clark, and he's like, men are still good, I need to find others like me. He knows about Wonder Woman's existence, and she's the first person he goes to. And then she's like, I know of other people we can go find. And then that sets up Justice League instead of a file on a laptop.
yeah.
But you'd have to rework some stuff. Jackson, how do you like the Justice League stuff in this? It's very tacked on.
Yeah, I that's exactly the word I would use.
Yeah. That's why I said the title is stupid. Because that's the whole tacked on part of the. It's thematically similar to the movie. It's just tacked on bullshit, bro.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Is there anything else we really want to cover with this one? I know we talked a lot.
I
Dude
do
drop.
just want to talk about how do you guys feel like the actual Batman. Well, two things. How do you guys feel like the actual Batman v Superman fight was, and how do you guys feel like the actual warehouse fight was? Because those are
Both
two,
really good.
Both really good.
I think all the big actions, excluding the Doomsday fight, all the big action set pieces are fantastic. I think that's like one of the more indisputably really good things about this movie.
The action scenes to me are not the parts I'm interested in with this movie because the conversations are way more interesting.
I would agree with that, but I'm saying like there are a lot of people who would argue that the dialogue and that all that shit sucks, but they usually concede that the action scenes are really good. I'm on your camp, Josh, that I think a lot of the dialogue exchanges are the best part,
Right.
but
See,
I also think the action is really well done.
it is, but also I struggle to engage. I know it's Dark Knight Returns Batman, but I struggle to engage with Batman when he's literally mowing through guys, like the
I
warehouse
get
fight.
that. I get it. I get
It's
it.
just
Like,
it's tough to like fully.
I understand that.
I get it, but like I don't.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And it would honestly, you know how like they've been talking. I'm not gonna tangent too hard, but you know how they've been talking about having two Batmans nowadays with Matt
Yes.
Reeves, and I think if there was another Batman while Ben Affleck was around, like a
It would
Brave
have
and
been
the,
fine.
it would have been a lot more palatable. I think
Okay.
for everyone too, because like this was the representation of Batman to the media now,
Yeah.
and it's not truly like what Batman. It's
No.
it's like a Zack Snyder Batman. It's not Batman.
It is.
But I
Yes.
guess, you know. So anyway, I do like the fights. They're just in context. I don't think they're the standout
Okay.
stuff. And everyone always hypes up this warehouse fight. I'm like, it's cool, but the cool part
You
is like
struggle
this,
to engage with it.
the cool
Yeah,
part
I
is like the
understand
Senate scene, and then like the stuff in Africa, and even like the weird nightmare stuff is fascinating to me, which we didn't touch on. I guess we'll touch on next week because that continues. But they have the
Yeah.
whole setup of the dystopian plot, which is very, very interesting. Let's give a. I'm gonna give thumbs up, thumbs down on 3, maybe.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3.
I'm gonna go middle.
Mixed. See,
Yeah,
Jalen,
mixed.
my brain says I should be around there, but my heart always loves this one, as messy as it is.
Fair enough.
No, and it is a mess. But like, yeah. And speaking of messes, we'll be talking about another one next week, and I can't wait.
It's like having. It's like having Thanksgiving or Easter, like that big feast, but you put too much on your plate, and some stuff is working a lot better than others.
Yeah.
But like at least you're getting like the full thing.
You're getting the whole thing.
Like no, you didn't skimp on anything, bro. Like they've included even the most obscure dish. Not every dish works, but like they got everything on there. That's BVS. The only other thing we have to talk about before we go today is Matt Reeves, Batman Part 2. Script is done. We've been talking about this script since week 1 about where it's been. It is finally here, finally complete. Gunn has not read it because he's doing his press tour right now. Safran read it. I just wanted to bring it up because it's very exciting. And it means that like actual progress is gonna start getting made.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, bro, the epic crime saga or whatever Reeves is calling his universe is probably gonna be the best cinematic universe. I think
We'll see.
superhero wise.
Oh, okay, good. Because
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
about
yeah,
to say
yeah.
Star Wars exists.
Yeah, no, superhero wise. I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
You think you're like the Batman
Go watch your
universe over
fucking
the
mouth.
Dark
Watch
Knight
your
stuff?
fucking. Be careful what
yeah,
you
I'm
say
not-
right now, Jalen.
I'm not even gonna get into that conversation, bro. Not
Don't
today.
fucking play with me.
Not today, man. Not today.
Yeah, it's just exciting news for me. I like that the title's still the Batman Part 2 as of now. I'm hoping we get Mr. Freeze as the villain. I know that's the fan cast, but I always like that fan cast. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll have any DCU connections, but I think it could still tie in. I just don't think this movie itself will have any connections to anything,
Right.
in my opinion. Is that a bold take?
Oh God! It just. I need Gunn to shut the fuck up and stop playing coy and just tell us what's going on. Like, I'm tired of speculating about this. Is anybody else tired? Like, I just want to know if.
We're not going to know
until
until they cast Batman, bro.
And that's really fucking annoying.
It is. And that's why I was hoping this Comic-Con we'd have a lot more stuff going on. And it sounds like they're doing nothing. And I wish we would just get a Batman cast or, like, I don't know. But it's okay. Because now we're going to... Do you think this movie gets moved up at all, though?
No,
No.
You think October 27th? That's so far.
Yeah,
It feels
it is.
like.
But I think it's staying there.
Because of product, like VFX and stuff.
It was a... Yeah, I think that it's going to be... They'll probably start shooting early next year. I think, finish in the summer, turn it
Yeah.
around, and have it out the October after.
I will say, if we get Brave and the Bold, that's not coming out till 28, 29. Like
That movie's
28.
never coming out.
If it does, if it
No
does,
movie
right?
has ever not been
Not
coming
been a
out
movie.
as much. Yeah, there's never been a movie that's gonna get canned as much as Brave and the Bold. I hate
Maybe
to say
that's
it.
the movie he was talking about when he was like, no, that's not the movie. Because he said he's still working on it.
I don't think it's dead yet. I think he's still trying. But that that confuses me, man. It's like, well, what the fuck is the plan then? If
I
that
think he just
doesn't
wants
work?
to do. I think he just really wants to do live action Bat Family, and Matt Reeves doesn't want to do that.
I thought Reeves said he wanted to do Robin. Am I tripping?
Maybe Robin, but not like Damian
That's true.
Wayne,
Yeah,
which implies
I
that
get
all the
what-
other Batmans exist. Like I think that's what Gunn wants to do.
I get
And
what you're
also,
saying. Okay.
that's also kind of why I want to see it. Like I would love it to be tied in, but also I do want to see the
wanna
whole
see
Bat Family
everybody, I get you.
properly adapted, not Titan style, like actually adapted good. So
Which is crazy that we've never had a proper live action adaptation of that stuff, right?
Titans is the closest
That
thing,
doesn't
and that's
count.
and that's not good. So yeah, we've
No.
never had a
Yeah.
proper one. But that is it for this week. Next week we're gonna conclude this series, our last episode before the big one, Superman
The big one.
2025.
It's all
So,
been leading to this.
thank you everyone for listening. See you soon.